House will now have before it House Bill 583. Good gentleman from 3.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 583.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 583 strikes a reasonable balance between regulation and private property rights. This has been something that's been worked on for the past 3 years, and I believe that this bill gets it right. We've seen throughout our state certain cities regulate short-term rentals so significantly they effectively ban them. This is part of protecting our Idahoans' private property rights. This year, the Supreme Court actually heard a case of one such abuses and found unanimously in favor of the property rights. This came out of the Business Committee with only one no vote, with that gentleman reserving his right to change his vote on the floor. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the good gentleman from 15 shift that red to a green.
Got to be careful about that good gentleman from 3.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your green light to support private property rights.
Thank you, gentlemen. For the motions, for debate on the motion, good lady from 34.
The gentleman from 3 yield to a question.
Gentleman 3 yield.
The gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen, the bill calls for and allows for regulation and oversight of these properties by counties and cities, but on page 2, lines, oh my heavens, I need reading glasses, 32 and 33, it essentially says that you can have nothing that allows for a county or city to be able to determine where these properties are, who they are. How precisely is a county or city supposed to know who they can or cannot regulate?
Gentleman 3.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good lady from 34. So I believe that would be dealt with more on complaints. So if there's complaints for any of the reasons that we have listed here, then they would understand from the property owner that they were actually renting it as a short-term or long-term or possibly living there.
Lady 34.
Mr. Speaker, to debate the bill.
Good lady has the floor.
Well, I appreciate what the good gentleman has attempted to accomplish with this legislation. He's essentially allowing for retroactive application of the law for those who have short-term rentals that may or may not be in compliance with the law in question. I have full respect for the rights of private property owners, which means I have respect for the homes that are located next to these short-term rentals. So in essence, we are relying on citizens to be the ones that are enforcing the law, reporting these individuals to their respective cities or counties to ensure that the law is being followed. I will also note that for this body, we have had a principle in the past of essentially saying, when you purchase property next to existing property that has certain rights associated with it, and from the gentleman on the back row who like to bring up ag exemptions, this is an ag one. When you purchase a home next to an ag property, we have said that there are certain expectations that come with that, whether we're talking about the sights, the sounds, the smells. You bought a home next to an ag property. As part of that decision-making process, you accepted what came with that property. The same goes for the purchase of these homes in residential communities. Well, you may be pursuing the opportunity to have a business that is reflected in the rental of that property. You did so purchasing it in a residential community that came with its own set of expectations for the other property owners. Whatever issues may exist within a local community about how those regulations are being handled, the courts have dealt with, as the gentleman from 3 just acknowledged in his opening debate. The regulations were found to be unfair and were addressed accordingly through the court system. I would ask this body to weigh closely whether or not it believes that we should have a carve-out that allows for very particular treatment for this particular practice, when in the past we have said, understand who your neighbors are, purchase according to what you are willing to accept as it comes to the neighbors in question, and then go from there. I encourage your red light.
For debate on the motion, gentleman 20.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to declare Rule 80. My wife's a lobbyist. Thank you.
Your conflict will be noted in the journal. Gentleman 13.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to declare Rule 80, since specifically in the legislation it calls out fire extinguishers and I believe smoke detectors, and the company I own sells both of those items.
Declaration will be noted in the journal. Gentleman 34.
Mr. Speaker, Rule 80, I have some short-term rental.
Gentleman's declaration to be noted. Gentleman from 23, excuse me.
Declare Rule 80. Mr. Speaker, my wife has lobbied on this particular bill.
Gentlemen, further declarations. Gentleman from 30.
I'll join the party Mr. Speaker, I'd like to declare a potential conflict of interest under Rule 80 as an owner of a short-term rental. Thank you.
Jump 6.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to declare Rule 80 as the owner of a short-term rental as well.
Your declaration be noted. Jump 12.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to declare Rule 80 as I also own that business that does fire alarms and fire extinguishers.
Jump 27.
Speaker, I'd like to declare Rule 80. I also own some short-term rentals.
This is getting fun. Good lady from 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rule 80, ditto, short-term rental owner.
I'm going to be honest, I can't believe people rent from some of you guys. Gentleman 33.
Mr. Speaker, to declare Rule of 80, I'm staying in a short-term rental.
I was hoping you were going to debate the bill.
And to lightly debate the bill, if
All
I
right,
may.
there you go. That's what I wanted to hear. Gentleman has the floor to debate the motion.
I'd ask unanimous consent to refer to pending legislation, Mr. Speaker.
Unanimous consent has been requested to refer to pending legislation. Is there objection? Hearing none, gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good body, this bill has been one of occasional sleepless nights for me. There are many communities who I represent who are deeply affected by this legislation. I was very grateful for the good work of our committee to bring this bill to the floor, and frankly, some of that public testimony and debate got me to my vote in committee. Since then, I have become aware of Senate Bill 1263, which also seeks to address this problem, and I think may reach a better compromise, especially based on some of the concerns that my good lady from District 34 has brought up. Mr. Speaker, a potential point of order.
Yeah, point of order. I think legislation.
My left eye doesn't work very well.
Thank you.
Gentleman from 13, would you like to state your point of order, please?
Legislation was referred to, but not unanimous consent asked to refer to other legislation.
Did I not? I thought I did, or did I not do that?
I did think that, Mr. Speaker, yes.
He did, and I did ask that. I was pretty sure. Now I think I'm going crazy, but I'm pretty sure we did that. I'm still laughing about all you
I understand why
renters.
Rule 80 was so distracting that the unanimous consent got lost.
I think it was the humor that got us all off track.
Okay.
Good gentlemen, would you continue to your debate, please?
Mr. Speaker, it is my intent to still support this legislation, as I believe, as the good gentleman from District 3 mentioned, that this is seeking a compromise that still maintains some of those mechanisms for our cities and counties to deal with these particular properties and this property use. But it is also my hope that the stakeholders will gather together and discuss both of these bills and take the best parts from them and bring us back an even stronger solution.
Thank you. Is further debate on the motion? Jump 28.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to debate in favor of the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, this issue has been going on a long time, and I've got a friend who owns 3 rentals, short-term rentals in Pocatello. They just bought one a couple of years ago in Lava Hot Springs, and they've had considerable problems developing that. It's a 60-year-old home. It was quite a bit run down, and the cost for just installing the fire suppression system under the Lava Hot Springs regulation was over $50,000. The system itself was about $20,000, but they had to supply a second water system, dig up the city street, run a big line in, and installing the fire suppression system, they destroyed the radiant heat system in the ceiling of that house and had to install an entirely new HVAC system. They were also told that if they made this a long-term rental, none of these ordinances would apply. It was only if they were going to rent for 28 days or shorter. They were restricted on the number of people in the home. It's a 2,100 square foot home, which under their regulations would allow 12. But if they kept it down to only 10, they would not have to meet some additional restrictions on what they can do with that piece of property. This morning, we get an email from the mayor of that community that says if we back off this bill, they'll back off their regulations. They know they've been making egregious requirements of those kind of properties, and it's time. Much as I have been a proponent of local control, they've gone too far. And it's time for us to step in and do something about what's been happening and give property owners their rights back. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Further debate on the motion. Gentleman 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate?
Gentleman has the floor.
I'm obligated to debate, I think, at this point. Look, this is probably one of the, to me at least, this is one of the most toughest bills to actually cast a vote on, because it presents a conflict between the valid rights of two different parties who are in conflict with each other. And I won't deny that or argue that there may not be some communities that have passed local ordinances that may go too far. But the problem with this bill is that it, and creates an imbalance, but the problem with this bill, it creates an imbalance in the other direction. And that can be found on page 1, line 16. Because right there, it literally crosses out, literally eliminates any protection for the integrity of residential neighborhoods. That's no longer a factor. Basically, you can turn a residential neighborhood, and my district is wall-to-wall subdivisions, single home family subdivisions. You can turn that into a quasi-business district. And in fact, these short-term rentals are a business. They may be in a home built for a residence, but if it wasn't a business, it wouldn't have been sent before the business committee. You know, we heard some really compelling testimony from people, you know, kind of talking about how they use some of these short-term rentals for really admirable purposes. But what we didn't hear during committee was testimony from the out-of-state hedge funds that buy these homes in residential communities and set them up as businesses with no intention of ever having it be a single-family dwelling. And the protections in this bill, which are for noise and parking and garbage and things like that, the bill says, well, you have local ordinances. Well, those local ordinances work if you have two long-term residents living next to each other and there's a problem, because they live there, and a problem can repeat itself, and you can have law enforcement come out and deal with it. But when you have transient people going in there, living, you know, on a short-term basis, every weekend is Groundhog Day. And law enforcement can't respond to these issues in a timely manner. So it's a false sense of security that you can just count on local ordinances to deal with this. So while I think this is an issue that does need to be addressed, I think that this bill puts the thumb on the scale too much in the favor of someone who wants to turn their home into a business, or to buy a home from out of state into a business, at the expense of the tranquility and what the expectations are, as the good lady from 34 said, when they purchased their home in the middle of a residential subdivision. So perhaps if we had a version of this bill that separated and acknowledged the difference between resort communities and residential neighborhoods, then maybe we can come up with a better bill to deal with this issue. Thank you.
Further debate on the motion. Gentleman 17.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was wondering if the gentleman from 28 would yield to a question.
Gentleman from 28 yield to a question.
I yield.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was wondering if the homeowners in your example utilize the takings process that's in place when a property owner believes that they have been denied the use of their property rights to such an extent that the property is not useless. It is not useful.
Gentleman 28.
Mr. Speaker, and gentlemen from
17.
I'm not aware of any process that they've used. They've simply tried to get along and manage their property to the best gain they have. Out of the 4 or 5 rentals that they have, their rental rate's about 95%, and this has been the most popular place that they rent in both communities, and it's been a good investment for them so far, and will eventually become their forever home.
Further debate on the motion.
To debate against the bill.
Gentleman from 17 has the floor to debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to point out that there is a process when you believe your property has been taken because of a zoning regulation or some other ordinance, and you can ask for they call it a takings evaluation from the local government, and you can file a lawsuit over the situation if you're indeed being significant. Well, I don't know the legal term. I don't recall the legal term, but if you're substantially deprived of the use of your property. Thank you.
For debate on motion, Gentleman 26.
Mr. Speaker, for debate, please.
Gentleman has the floor.
To the good author, if we're going to do some woodshedding behind the scenes, one point of view we haven't talked about here is, in my view, it's treating everybody equally. And somehow a balance between short-term rentals and the hotel-motel industry, we need to strike some kind of a balance. If you've ever had a private business, when somebody comes through for an inspection, that's pretty much a bunch of costs to the business owner. If you look at all the regulations that we put on the motel-hotel industry, it would seem fair, if we like those regulations, we'd put them on short-term rentals. And if they're not appropriate for short-term rentals, then why in the world are we putting them on the hotel-motel industry? Thank you.
For debate, Gentleman 2.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate.
Gentleman has the floor.
I'm confounded. We live in a nation that prides itself on private property ownership, and as long as man can remember, it's been the achievement to own land and do with it what I choose to do. The reference to sight, sounds, and smells and living next to a farm, I guess it's a long way from the 80s and Animal House, the movie. I don't know what signs, smells are coming out of short-term rentals. Or anyone who has a home that they've moved out of that they don't want to sell and that they've used it as a source of supplementary income. Since the beginning, men and women have sought to own land, and others have sought to control what they do on these other people's lands. Why don't we stop with the regulations? We've regulated ourselves to death. This is a simple issue of private property rights. Let people who own their land do what they would like.
For debate on the motion. Hearing none, Gentleman 3, care to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, good body, for the debate. A declaration of Rule 80 as well, as they were going around. I do have rental properties, including short-term rentals.
Your declaration will be noted in the journal, good gentleman. Continue to close.
I think some of the debate obviously brought up some questions, and I'd like to address some of those. As the good gentleman from 28 mentioned, because they were over that 29-day threshold, they were required to do significant changes, and we're seeing that throughout the state, and that is not protecting property rights. The integrity loophole, to the good gentleman from 15, was what all the cities were essentially banning these on. That was what the use that they were using, and so that was the reason for the strikeout in the integrity there. This has been, again, debated for 3 years, and I understand that there is a competing bill over in the Senate, but my goal is to bring this bill forward because I believe that this bill is stronger in protection for property rights. I think also, to the good lady from 34, this legislation is needed so that we don't have to force our constituents to go to the court system every time there's abuse here. This is clarity for both the property owners as well as the municipalities to not bog down our court systems. And I understand the thought of, the neighbors, but I believe, like, we talk about local control a lot here. The localist control is that property owner. They should be the ones in control of their property. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I ask for your green light.
Thank you, gentlemen. Debate is closed. Question Judicial House Bill 583 pass the House. Clerk will unlock the machine, and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? McCann. Does any member wish to change their vote? Clerk will lock the screen and record the pairs. Report the pairs.
Tanner 14 votes aye, Rubel votes nay. Green votes aye, Hawes votes nay.
54 ayes, 16 nay. More than majority having voted in favor of House Bill 583. House Bill 583 is passed House. Correction title.
No correction in title.
Hearing none, title approved. Bill will be transmitted to the Senate. Gentleman, 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ask unanimous consent